Father, we thank you, Lord, for this day you give us, Lord, the breath of life you put in us, Father. I ask you to touch our hearts, our minds, to do the will of the people that sent us, Lord, that your will be done, not ours. And we'll give you the honor, and we'll give you the glory. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
And I'll call to order the Board of Commissioners work session January 3rd, 2023. Younger, if you will, come lead us in our pledge, sir.
Face the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start off with our items of discussion, but I would like to welcome Mike Clampett, Representative Mike Clampett, with us here this morning. Thank you, Captain. Our first items of discussion is the three ordinances. We've been talking about these ordinances for probably the last 6 months at least, about trying to maybe repeal them or see if they are needed at this time. So we'll start off talking a little bit about these ordinances, which the first one is the noise ordinance. And you guys should have a copy of these ordinances that they've been given out a while back. So this noise ordinance, and I think Kevin talked about how that we can't just, we have to repeal them. It has to be an ordinance to repeal, or a resolution to repeal the ordinance, right?
Yeah, you have to, you have to go through the same process you did when you put in that ordinance, and so you have to have an ordinance to repeal an ordinance.
Yeah.
And so these don't require a 10-day public notice, none of them do. So basically you just have to adopt this ordinance to repeal it.
The noise ordinance was, I think I read in here that was written back in 2001. At that time, I have talked to law enforcement, and it's kind of like an ordinance that's there, but it's not really enforceable the way it's written. So you guys have any discussion on that? And what we'll do is we'll talk about these and then we'll vote on them if we decide to in the next regular session.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I just have the same question that on all three of these. I'll probably ask the same question. So what was the purpose originally? Do you remember or know what the purpose was originally when another board adopted them? And was there an issue, a problem? What's the downside? What's the upside? What was the thinking at that time?
The thinking back then was a lot of the animal control or animal noises, and so they addressed that in the noise ordinance specifically. But it was basically adopting a lot what the town already has. They have a noise ordinance in place inside the city limit after a certain time period. And I think at the time, this was in 2001, and so I think at the time that's what they really wanted. But from my understanding and from court documents, there's about 3 or 4 cases I think that have been tried over the years, and basically this ordinance, the way it was presented or the way it was drafted, was not constitutional, and so they could not pursue it as far as from law enforcement standpoint.
Sorry. Mean about no way to enforce it, in other words.
Right. It's basically been a useless ordinance since it was written because the court found it not constitutional the way it was written.
So if we have a complaint, then how does that work? Let's say just loud music, a neighbor loud music complaint. How do we handle that? And how do we handle it now, and how would we handle it with this is done away with? For instance, or the dog barking, loud, how will we handle it?
I mean, if somebody calls in 911 and says they have a complaint about a noise, of course, then, the sheriff's office would, I guess, investigate, right? Now, Jason's here, so he can talk to some of that stuff. But then, if there's nothing in place, then, and not to say this is not needed. I'm just saying what has been said is this, the way it's drafted currently, the way it has been adopted, is not enforceable. And that's by coming from the DA's office and sheriff's office, and that's why they do not. And basically, we've not had a noise ordinance since the time it was put in, technically, because it's never been enforced.
So in other words, this needs to be scrubbed and revamped at some point?
If you wish it to be
If
so.
the issue persists? I mean, if the issues persist? I mean, I understand quiet time in your neighborhood, you know, people should respect that, and a lot of people do, but some don't. So there may be issues where they might need the ordinance, just not the way this one's worded, correct?
Jason, do you guys have, I mean, is it still a disturbance of the peace? Is that still a,
Swain County, you can cuss on a public street or highway in Swain County. So, you know, and be loud. It's a fine line, as how we can enforce that part of it. You know, we can do disorderly conduct, you know, if they don't stop or causing disturbance of some other kind, then we can enforce it that way. But, as far as loud music, barking dogs, stuff like that, we can't enforce it from what I've been told now. I have enforced it in the past. They didn't fight it. They just paid the fine and went on, so it never got to court to get to that point. But I mean, somebody was to fight it, then yeah, it's unconstitutional and it's been made that way. Even by the county attorney, most recently was who consulted Kim Lay, her partner, excuse me. And she said it was not constitutional to, on top of the DA's office and, the judges in the past.
This ordinance is set up mainly for barking dogs and farm animals, as I read it.
That's correct, yeah.
so I think that we need to, if we're gonna repeal this ordinance, we can't go back and look at this at any time. We can come back with the ordinance if we want to. So, what's the general concession? Do you guys think that this is something that we should do?
I feel like we should follow the advice of the county attorney. If it wouldn't hold up in court, then it needs to be done away with for now, and then we can revisit
We
it.
can revisit if we need to.
Yeah, I think if you can't enforce it, it's a waste of paper.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, Roger, if you good with that?
Yes, sir. If everybody was a good neighbor, we wouldn't need a single
Right.
ordinance in the county. Not everybody's a good neighbor,
I understand
so regrettably. So it may be that if what I'm hearing, we don't really, this doesn't hold up in court the way it was written, abolish it or repeal it, and then if we need to tackle that again, tackle it in a way that will stand up and have teeth. So I agree, it's not, if it won't stand up, it's not worth having, so. But I wish everybody'd be a good neighbor, we wouldn't have to do any of these, but
Me too.
don't tie your dog up under someone else's bedroom window, and it'd help, you know?
So, what we'll do is general consensus, we'll move this to as a voting item in our next regular session, and we'll vote on that, so. The next ordinance is the erosion sedimentation control ordinance. This ordinance was actually adopted in 1997, if I'm not mistaken. I'll tell you a little bit about what I know about it, because I enforced it for a long time. It's a state ordinance it's a state backbone ordinance with Swain County's name plugged into it. The state actually has an erosion control ordinance, it's statewide. They enforce it, and what they did in 1997 is they asked Swain County to build its own ordinance and do its own enforcement. And this is an ordinance that's kind of redundant because the state does have it, actually. They have pretty much, they have the exact same thing as well, except for maybe some fees and some word structures. So I ask you guys again, how do you feel about this ordinance, and what do you think? Any discussion on it?
If we repeal this ordinance, the state ordinance would take effect, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's a few there's a bunch of counties in the state that does not have their own erosion control ordinance. They actually the state implements the ordinance in their county. Graham County is one of them.
I also want to talk a little bit about the enforcement of such thing. If we repeal ours and go by the states, does the state then, does enforcement go back to them?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
I thought that's what we had discussed. I just want to make sure that so enforcement really falls to Raleigh at that point.
Correct, and they want, I mean, they've reached out to us back in, I guess, November 1st, in that time period. They do want it back. There's been a few issues, I guess, over the last couple of years about especially bigger developments, and some of the, Raleigh get involved, or the enforcement folks from Raleigh, and then Swain County, enforcement, who's, what jurisdiction and
Who has it, who don't.
Who's really in charge at the end of the day. And so I think that's one of the reasons, plus, they had made a comment, if we did want to continue with the type of ordinance, that we would have to supply a employee to come to Asheville, to go to Asheville every day for 18 months to be trained correctly in enforcement of the state ordinance, is basically what was indicated. So it's not really on this one, we really don't have much of a say-so. We're acting on behalf of the state in enforcing, the laws that are already in effect. And so they want that back. But if we want to keep it, we have to meet these certain criteria, which means we have to send an employee over there and get trained from one of their folks every day, riding with their folks and really getting into the mix of it. So that's what's been communicated to us.
The enforcement cost, if we keep it, is ours. The enforcement cost, if we give it back to them, is theirs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
There's several ways of enforcement costs too. Manpower for one thing, and then if you go to the extreme case of actually enforcing it as monetary values or putting penalties and fines on somebody, and you had to go to court several times. And I've seen this happen in the state level, to where they had it was like a $4 million enforcement case, this humongous development. They took it to the court several times, and the last judge kicked it out, so they lost like $400,000 in attorney fees and didn't win the case. But they say they're backed by the Attorney General, so they have several lawyers involved. So it would cost us to keep it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I suggest we bring this up in next business meeting and vote to repeal it would be fine with me.
You guys feel same? All right, so we'll move that to regular session under voting items. The next ordinance we have is the manufactured home ordinance, and we had talked about this for a while as well. I'm not exactly sure what year this went in. 96? 1996 this went into as an ordinance. So we'll discuss that a little bit as well. I think we talked about this during one incident that we had, and we went back and looked at the state. The state actually has their own manufactured mobile home park ordinance. We just duplicated it, made ours a little bit more stringent. And so I think at that time we talked about we wanted to go back to the state, so we'll just bring that up for discussion as well.
I think some of that, Mr. Chairman, was just the distance between homes and things of that nature, and
Yes, sir.
we had a little stricter regulation than the state did, and so I think we passed that variance and with the idea that we'd probably do this in the future, so this is the future, I guess.
Yes.
At this time, when we're seeking to have as much affordable housing as possible, it'd be, if you can put another manufactured home in a park or two, that might help.
Yeah.
In housing and so on, so. And still meet the state guidelines.
You can look that up online. The state actually has a mobile home. It's not, I don't think it's called an ordinance, it's a mobile home. It's kind of like code. It's codes for mobile homes and mobile home parks.
I think you looked it up and read it during
I
the
did.
meeting one time, so
So how you guys feel about that?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think when you got enough housing anyway, make it easier.
I agree. So we'll move that to the regular session again as a voting item. And we will vote on these items on the third Tuesday at 5:30. Next, we have the Board of Equalization and Review appointment. And that should be in your packet as well. And that's Miss Lottie, right?
Yeah, that's, she put her nomination form in, for Board of Equalization Review, and I guess just for the entire board. Board of E&R, of course, is for the tax assessment of properties in Swain County, and, normally we don't have a lot of people coming off of that board, but this time we've had a few. So I think we've still got one more slot available, right, Cindy? Yep, so even after this one, we'll still have to have one more additional one. They meet usually 1 week a year, April, May, sometime period in there, and basically go through the assessments. So, hearing appeals. So, anyway, this is for your information for next meeting. If you'd like to install her as a appointee. Also, I think at this time we're going to talk about the other appointments as well for other boards, if there's any open slots, or you might have a packet of information about the boards that we currently have and the slots that are available. Most appointments come up in June, so that's normally, we were running the paper about a month before, and that way we get different people that are interested, put in their applications, but sometimes we do fill slots during the year, and this is one of those times, so.
Did you want to wait, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
till
we'll
next
just-
time to
We
vote
will,
on that as well?
If we got a general consensus, we're good with this, we'll just move it to the voting in the regular session as well.
It's fine.
All right. Okay, and next, item number C is the audit, and I think Kevin's gonna fill us in on that.
Yeah. So we, by law, we have to get a third-party auditor to audit, and currently we're with Turner and Company out of Cherokee County. And it's been increasingly more difficult, I guess, in general across the state to get auditors for county governments. It's getting a lot more complexity to the auditing process. And what you don't know is that the audit firms are audited as well by the state auditor. And so they're putting a lot more stringent, I guess, policies in place, and it's getting, like I say, it's getting more and more difficult. This year, our audit is late, of course. It was due by December 1st, and it's not December 1st anymore. We're late. And so there will be an audit extension. A lot of it is because we are governed by two different sets of rules, General Accepted Accounting Practices, and then GADSB, which is Governmental Accounting Standards Board. They issue different statements throughout the year, and that's all automatically included in the audit process, so there's more paperwork. So I don't know if everybody, I guess everybody's seen the audit. Our audit's about that thick, when they get done with it. Pretty complex. And so we're not the only one that is late with an audit. I think there's about 30% of the state that has not turned an audit at this point for county government. And it's just because of the, one, the complexity of the audit, two, lack of staff, like we've all experienced, and then three, of course, the new policies and procedures. Currently, our current audit firm audits us, Graham County and Cherokee County, and I think all of us at this point we're still waiting on audit. She's Holly Turner with Turner and Company has assured me that it'll be done by the end of the month, and so but did want to just bring you up to speed that it is, going to be late. We might receive a unit letter from the local government commission. They understand the issue, because they've dealt with it, like I say, all across the state. So I think that, we'll be all right. We will get a unit letter though. I just want to let you know that. I don't think, and it's just because it'll just say your audit was late. And, as a board of commissioners, you really don't have control over, your third-party contractor, because I don't know of any other person, any other agency or organization in this part of the state that does audits. We've looked at them, and it's hard to find an audit firm right now. So anyway, they're doing the best that they can do. They will be presenting either virtually or in person, which is a new state requirement within 45 days of the continuation of the audit, or the finalization of the audit, which will be end of the month hopefully. So you'll be seeing from them probably in February.
Is the LGC, do they know all this stuff? I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they do. And I've had, Sharon Edmondson has been, she's been with LGC for a long time, and it's, we're kind of in uncharted territory with the amount of personnel that is coming out of schools for auditing, and agencies that are, or organizations that are getting out of audit practice. And, Eric Bowman, who was our auditor for forever,
Long time.
he basically told me it's just so much paperwork behind the scenes that it's just not really worth it, at the end of the day, to do auditing, because, there's so many criteria. And so you have to usually go after these bigger firms, and unfortunately in Western North Carolina, there's not many big firms that do auditing. So we did try the company down in Winston-Salem about 5 years, and it seemed like every year we were getting an audit team, they were barely out of college. And so we were training them on some of the stuff, the protocols, and how to do it. And then next year they'd turn around and they'd get another job somewhere else. And so it was kind of a revolving door. And so we went out for RFP, a couple years ago, and Turner and Company have done a great job with auditing. It's just right now they've got some issues with staffing, and of course the new criteria on the Gatsby statements, so which is taking a little bit more process. Then also in turn, you have all the other, the ARPA funding, the direct grant funding that is tied to, the state. There's different single audit requirements, which takes a little bit longer to do as well. So I think it's a combination of all that together is why it's causing some issues. But.
You guys got any questions? Okay. All right, item number D is paving contract.
Yeah. So this is up there at the event park, and what we're going to be doing up there starting soon is we're going to start bringing in the base gravel, and we'll have our county personnel doing that, and also putting in the piping, like for the sewer, and also the storm water, and some conduit for the lighting and things like that. So we're going to do all that. And then we're just going to start bringing in our base gravel, which is about 6 inches. It's going to be quite a bit of bill for gravel. And then we'll be doing a contract. So we'll send out an RFP for paving, and we're getting the exact measurements on how many linear feet of asphalt surface we have to have, and we'll just kind of go from there on that. And this is all direct grant funding as well, so we have to go through purchasing, the correct purchasing laws. And so the paving is really the biggest one. You can buy gravel. That's not an issue, because we've got really one or two suppliers, so it's not a big deal for the gravel. But the paving, we have to go out for contract with that per state law. So, and like I say, all of that has been done through the direct grant program for Mr. Clampett got for us. So it's all going to work out. But I just did want to let you know it's kind of going to be a hybrid. We're going to have part of it county, part of it is going to have to be contracted out. So, but you'll see that in the paper in the next few weeks, that we'll just be asking for bids for paving, and we'll have a bid sheet in here, and they can pick it up and that sort of thing.
Mike, we appreciate working on that grant for us.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to more.
Don't have the checkbook today.
That's what I was gonna say, if you brought any more, but you'll take it now. Thank you. Anybody got any questions on that?
I don't have any questions. I just want to make sure we're very cautious with the runoff. You know, we've had a big field there.
Yep.
We're just about to run a hay field. Some of us like hay fields, don't we, David?
Oh,
We're about
yeah,
to run a
picked
big
up
hay
hay up
field
there
up
a lot.
there, and we're gonna cover all that grass up, which is a natural absorbent, of course, and we just need to be really careful how we channel that water off into Hyatt Creek there, and
Yeah.
I hope we just really aware of that and be careful about that. I don't wanna have any flooding issues and culverts stopping up and overflowing
Yeah, I
and crossing the
agree with
road type of thing, you know?
Right.
That goes back to one of our ordinances back here, doesn't it, about
All the water
erosion
flow,
control?
I think all the water flow has to go the same way it's going right now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, even on DOT projects.
Yeah, so I
It's-
just
it's
want
going
us
that
to
way
be
now,
very
it's
aware
the
and
same.
cautious about that. I don't want us to be flooding out Hyatt Creek at some point because we paved the parking lot up the top.
Yeah, we're, so
This
we're gonna put
basically
in
is,
another
this
culvert.
basically is the hill, correct? The drive up to the park,
Yeah, and it's
but
not
no paving
anything,
in the park, correct?
no, it's not in the park. It's not in front of the pavilion at all. It's off to
Oh,
the
okay.
right-hand side.
Okay.
But still, we have to worry about the runoff. And,
Right.
we've got plans to put in a couple more culverts. We're also, going to get, maybe soil and water to come out and give us some tidbits.
Oh, I was thinking that it was just more paving than what you're speaking to.
There is gonna be paving. I mean, it's gonna be a 2-lane road all the way up to the end of the back of the park. It'll be a 2-lane road all the way out. And then the paving, the parking lot will be about 150 cars. So it's gonna be, but it'll be on the right-hand side where we traded the property.
Yes.
We traded some property with, the Cogginses. And so we'll be paving that section.
And that, we kind of designate that almost as a handicap parking type area and things like that as well
Yeah.
too, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's not gonna be paving a lot. I mean,
Had we worked on paving or sidewalk from the bathrooms up to the pavilion or anything?
We're
yet?
gonna do
We'll
that with all
with
this.
this project?
yeah. So all the curb and gutter and all that'll be factored in.
I think we need to be careful how much we do pave in case we decide to do something else with some other property.
Right.
Be bad to pave it and gravel it and then tear it all back up if you decided to do something else, because I've got something I'd like to see done up there too.
I don't think there's gonna be much, on our side, there's not gonna be a lot of paving at all right now.
No, this is the property we traded for on the right-hand side. So it's not gonna be, it's 90 feet by, it's 90 feet by 320 feet, square or rectangle. And then that we traded for on that bottom section, which we couldn't do nothing with. And then that one little section next to the pavilion and the bathrooms, which was gonna be the handicap area, we were gonna make that, so it'll be like an L shape. And then there'll be a 2-lane road, which right now we could have desperately needed a 2-lane road this last couple miles there because it's hard getting people in and out, so. But anyway, we're working on contracting yet on the paving part, and then, of course, our crew will be doing the grunt work with the stormwater, putting in the septic down the hill and all that, so.
Anybody else got anything on that? Move on to item number E, which is projects and contracting.
Yeah, so this is the other direct grant, which we've got at the indoor rec facility. I would encourage you to go up and look at it sometime. Currently, we've got the insulation put in. It's 1,000 times different in there right now. It's gonna be a lot better when we get the HVAC put in, which will be, we're right now seeking bids for the actual equipment. We've got the personnel to put it in, so we're gonna be getting the right fit for the HVAC, and then we'll be having, I think, 7 units down the backside. And so it's gonna make that fully heated and air conditioned year round. So I think it's gonna be great. But we will have to get out some bidding on the equipment because the equipment's gonna go above the range. So we'll have to get out at least 3 quotes on that before we can buy that. But then our personnel will be putting it in. We're licensed up to that amount, so.
And this was funded through
Same program as Representative Clampett brought forward.
Representative Clampett, thank you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've stopped by there when they were tearing all the old insulation out and starting to put in the new in, so you probably, you'll see a big difference in that building, because
Yeah, that building was getting pretty rough shape.
it was, yes.
It was getting pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
What events we plan on having there year-round, or what,
Well, a lot
how
of
will it be
times-
purposed? How will it be used?
It was just really inadequate for everything we were doing. Actually next week, I think we're starting basketball.
Okay.
Even with the installation, it's gonna be a dramatic difference. But any event, any sporting event or any, organized sport, it's gonna be best for.
Are the weights still in the side room over there?
They were, yes.
Yeah, they are, still there. So hopefully we're gonna increase the utilization of the building, is what
Right.
the hopes are.
Is there anything else that we need to work on that building that we need to get done?
Well, currently, I mean, it kind of segues into the other stuff that we've on the thing here, but, so currently, we've got the plan to do the modifications up at the, swimming pool area. We're putting in the big, slide, this summer. And then the next summer, we'll be doing the lazy river, and all this is funded by the TDA and the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. What the county needs to look at is the bathroom renovations, moving the bathrooms, putting in the 2 meeting rooms at the complex. And then what we want to do is move the offices from where they are now down to the indoor rec facility in the front there. So make all those offices there instead of up there at the swimming pool. And that's where our thoughts are at this point. So going back to the thing, that front section, it needs to be offices, because it really can't, they're not big enough for meeting rooms. And what we want to do up at the other places, have a couple places for people to rent out for birthday parties or whatever, plus have a place for senior spring classes. Basically just any type of program we have, we'd have a space to do it, that's smaller than just a big.
So it'd be where the old for those of us old enough to remember, the old Pepsi offices were in that front part.
Correct.
A rec park with offices to go where the old Pepsi offices were.
Correct. And we're gonna start so we're gonna have to, before we do anything, we have to move the offices, because the plan for the new bathrooms is gonna be where the offices are now. That's where the bathrooms to the facility is gonna be, because the lazy river is gonna be taken up where the bathrooms are at the rec park now. So it'll all be, we're trying to stage it, basically. So right now, we're working on the front part to move the offices down there at the indoor facility, and then we'll work through the other parts of it, so.
Anybody else got anything on this subject? Move on to, item F, personnel changes.
Yeah, just wanted to kind of brief you on a few of them. So we had a few retirements. Peggy Hyde retired, and so y'all have filled those positions, filled her position. With, of course, April Hampton and Rodney Morrow. And then David Breedlove retired at the end of the month, end of December. And he was been replaced by Misty Tabor, goodness. Misty Tabor. And Brandon Wiggins is the EMS director. And so just wanted to let y'all know about those changes, so.
Yeah, but both those guys have been with them for, Misty's been there for a long time, and Brandon's been there for a long time as well, so
Yep.
they know how it works, and know the ins and outs, so. Anybody got anything on that?
We'll miss those folks. I mean, they've been,
Yeah.
we miss them.
They've been a great asset to this county.
Done a great job.
Work.
Several years.
Several years, we appreciate it. Right, next, the sheriff department vehicles.
Yeah, I just put this on there to just kind of give you a brief update on the sheriff's department vehicles. We'd ordered 10 Explorers and I think 7 trucks. We ended up with 5 Explorers coming in. They basically said you can't get any more Explorers, and so we had to go to Dodges. So now we've got 5 Dodges ordered, and of course couldn't stay in North Carolina to do it apparently, so we had to go to Georgia to get them. So because the order banks, they're just all over the place with fleet pricing. And so anyway, I did want to let you know that the vehicles have been all ordered, but they're not going to be all Fords. It's going to be 5 Dodges, and that's not because of our wishes. It's just the Ford could not order them, so it was going to be last year. And a lot of this came back last year with the board members that are here. I think we had asked for if we could order them in January of last year. If we'd locked in then we could probably got them, but it was when we ordered them. You know, we had to wait, and that delay caused us not to get them. And then also with the trucks, and this is kind of the big thing is with the trucks, I think there was a $7,000 variance between the time we quoted them to the time we actually got to order them. So we had to pay $7,000 extra per truck just because we missed that window. And that's just the world we're living in now, apparently, with these such a fleet. And so did want to let you know that everything's progressing with that. We did get 4 of them in, I think, last week, and then 1 of them in November. So we do have 5 Explorers in. I don't think we've got the trucks yet. Oh, okay. So anyway, we've got 5 of the 17 vehicles that y'all had voted on for this budget cycle. So, but
We didn't get to order the trucks until August. That's when the bank of, we got it ordered in August, so it'll be sometime, I'll be surprised to see them in July this year.
Well, we got pickup trucks, just a regular, what does the sheriff's department use a pickup truck for?
Ford has come out with a new, responder pickup truck that is pursuit rated, and, it's more accessible for our terrain sometimes. Wildlife, I know, has some, that's what they're using the responder trucks.
Are these I mean, I can't remember how we done this last time, but are these vehicles actually outfitted for?
They will be.
They are, okay, all right. And I can't remember if we ordered them, had them outfitted, or?
Well, we order them, and then we'll have them upfitted locally,
Okay.
as far as lights and stuff.
And you would be able to haul a detainee in one of your?
Yes. Cherokee PD actually has several trucks that they're using, too. Several other agencies throughout the mountains are using them, and, they're really pleased with them
and they were actually cheaper than Explorers, I believe.
at the time, yeah.
Do a Dodge,
They're Dodges,
Mr. Chair, I do have one quick question about that. A while back, we were told you guys were trying to ease away from the Chargers.
Yeah, well, they're making them now.
They were, I don't want to blast a manufacturer, but maybe they did not hold up as well as some of the other vehicles that we had. Do you think these will do better?
The Durangos, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see, because we've had a few issues out of them, and I've talked to several other agencies.
So these are Durangos as opposed to the
Yes,
Chargers?
they're not Chargers.
They're the
They're
Durangos. Got you.
We do currently have 2, I think they're 2019 Durangos in fleet, and, you know, they're about the same as Fords, I think, from my understanding, as far as,
We've had a few issues lately in the past couple of weeks, after we ordered, but, I mean, that's all we can get right now. We can't get any Fords anywhere.
So they're on their way, and we don't know when they'll be here, but that's
Yeah.
Again, that's the way
I
everything
would
is.
speculate it'll be probably next budget cycle on some of them. which will be next, after July 1st. So
They
you'll be
told
hearing
us
about them.
Possibly March on the Durangos. Let's see.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions on that or anything to add? If not, we'll move to the county manager's report.
Going back to one of the projects starting this spring is the Lazy River, not the Lazy River, slide starting this spring. And we're going to be contracting with Water Parks Consulting LLC. Basically, they're going to be the overseer of the project. And then we ordered the slide from Spectacular out of Ohio, which is, there's only a few people that do these types of slides, so there was no competitive bidding needed for that process. So we went straight to the manufacturer. It'll be coming in little spurts. So you're going to see activity at the pool this spring. The company that's overseeing the project will have a foreman on site, and then they're going to be working with us on we'll have to do some density testing of the pool. We'll have to do the footings and stuff like that, but then basically it'll just be put in. So, and all of that's factored within the budget that you've already done. The next project is out at the animal control facility. We're still trying to relocate a water line, the town has to relocate a water line in order for us to continue. And so that's what we're really waiting on. And at this point, they are working with McGill and Associates out of Asheville they have to come up with a plan, since that is the major line that fills the tank up at the top of the hill behind the industrial park. And so they're working with them on the moving of that line. So once that's completed, we'll be flying in on that with a steel building and putting that one in place. The fishing museum, we currently do have staff over there working on that. That is all TDA funded as far as the funding. So you'll see some work going on. There'll be some county folks over there. We are building that. If there's any questions about that, let me know. The library wall. So this year's budget also put in $500,000 for a little wall, a retaining wall behind the library. And this is kind of getting ready for a bigger project that's been planned for the library. And so this is the first phase of it. At this point, we're looking at contracting that out. So it's not going to be county personnel. It's getting a little bit more complex. And so an engineer is currently drawing up the plans, the bid specs, and so we'll be bidding that project out. And hopefully it'll be done by July 1st of this year. So, any questions about that? Okay. So our light show, what we were involved with the TDA this past December, we ended up getting $106,703 total, which is around 5,500 cars once you do the pre-sales and all that out of it. And I did ask why it was 46 cents, but we had fees for like credit card fees and things like that if we were accepting credit cards, so there's some fees involved in that. Anyway, around 5,500 cars, which for the first year I think it was based on the size that was done. It was a good turnout. All of that money, of course, as you know, went to charitable organizations, or is going to charitable organizations. So we're getting ready to process those checks back out to those folks. And I don't know as far as next year what that holds. If the TDA wants to do it, it'll probably be on them as far as setting everything up and everything. We're still waiting on a survey for the land swap. Bobby Burns Surveying is doing the survey for us out at the industrial park. We need 3.5 acres cut off of that front side. And so he's in the process of doing that. And once that happens, we'll continue the process of the land swap with Mark Fortner. At this point, I do have a contract ready to look at. And going forward, we've tried to put a lot of different, I've had Kim Carpenter looking into it, and she's developed this contract, and I will give you all a copy of it as quick as she gets done with it. So, but it basically puts in everything that y'all had, the previous board wanted to have when they voted on it, was more of the environmental impacts. If there was environmental issues with the current Tuckasegee Mills building, you know, all of the different things that was wanted to put in there is in there. So we'll get that approved, and then we'll send that to him and see if he signs it.
So in other words, that deal's not went plumb through? Is it a done deal, or is it
The deal's progressing. So basically, the board was instructed when it was voted on that as long as these conditions were met, then, and it doesn't have to come back for a vote. Like, so let's say if he come back and said, well, I want to do this instead of this, well, then that would have to be a board action. But as long as it meets the certain parameters, if he's okay with the current contract because that addresses all the issues, then there's nothing for the board to vote on. But as long as that happens, it's progressing.
So we're just in the process?
We're still in the process, yes. Because it can come back and say, he can say, well, no, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do this.
But
Well,
it'll be up to him to stop the process?
pretty much, yeah.
Now, my ears heard, but I was just in the audience that night, that we was just starting the process, that it wasn't a done deal.
We're starting the process of closing. This is the closing piece of it.
Is that,
Yeah.
well, I'm just learning. In other words, when you start the process, that means a done deal?
If all the parameters are done. No, y'all, the board voted for the transaction because that was it was all a public hearing. So y'all put it up for a public hearing on the land swap, the previous board. And then you voted or they voted to make that swap happen based on the criteria of environmental concerns, you know, everything that was spelled out in the land swap deal. I think it was actually in the paper that way. And so they voted on the swap.
As county manager, do you think that's a good deal?
I'm not a board member.
Well, I'm just
I mean-
asking you for your personal opinion. As a county manager, do you think that's a good trade?
Based on the comments that were made by the school board and the commissioners at the time, yes.
Do we have like a time frame on this? Is there a
No.
due
Not
diligence
really.
time frame or anything?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're continually working through, but, I mean, hopefully we can get it done by March, is the thought, if we can get the survey back. It's taken a while for the survey.
And we'll
like
have
anything else.
we'll have a contract
Do
in the
what?
next few weeks, maybe?
Yeah.
If we can't get our kids home from the high school as of right now, on account of the roads being blocked by the train, how are we gonna get our kids home when we've got two schools on the same side of the track? Has anybody got an answer?
Maybe they can run the train 30 minutes earlier or come in 30 minutes later.
I think that's a big discussion.
I think all that can be worked out.
I mean, I don't see us building this school in the next, it's not gonna be fine. I think we need to talk to the DOT for one thing and see if they have any kind of, advice that we might be able to work with them. And also we need to work with the town, and the train as well, because there's a lot of factors, a lot of hands in on that could make it easier or could make it harder. So we need to, that's a good discussion. We need to discuss that for sure.
Plus,
I'd mention a third bridge in town, but one legislator don't want me to.
He left.
they're claiming
He's talking about.
that they give $600 and some thousand for 6 acres of land up there. Is that not correct? Mark said he had to buy some from. Where in Swain County has anybody ever give that kind of money per acre of land? The only thing I can think of that comes close is the acreage we bought to build the jailhouse and the senior citizens. Come on now, there ain't nobody gonna give that kind of money per acre of land. You know. I rode a wagon, but I didn't fall off, you know.
I don't know where there's much better laying land than that, but that is a pretty steep price tag. But
It's not a.
we do
pretty
have
steep-
some other property that ain't gonna be usable. It's gonna cost millions of dollars to get the earth moved on it.
You talking about the property at the high school?
Yes, sir.
Well, look at what we give for it, and we can't even get
Mm-hmm.
10% of our money back.
Well, it may need to go back up for sale. I don't know. I mean, that's why we're having these discussions, I think.
What did we give for it? $4.2 million. Am I correct?
It's quite a bit of money.
And
I
now
don't
they're saying that we can't get a quarter of our money back.
Well,
I think we need to make that, have a discussion on kind of
a different work session.
yeah, well, let's say like, a strategic plan on that school. And looking at all these things that Mr. Loftus is bringing up and,
We
you
are
want
new to this project
you want
that's
it with the
coming
school
up,
board?
so
huh?
You want it with the school board?
Yes.
I'd like to
Yeah,
hear the spiel too.
Because honestly, I'd like to sit with the school board as well, because they're involved in this just as much as we are. And maybe we have somebody from the DOT maybe kind of come in and talk to us. And the town maybe, I don't know, we can just kind of fill out and see what they say. And we want to listen, we want to make sure that this is the right swap, the right thing to do. And
I believe it's done and swapped,
There's not really, I mean, it's,
because our manager just said right then, the only person that could stop the swap is if Mark Fort, so.
And he may do it too, you know, so.
Is the plant started being torn down up there? I don't think he would stop. I think it's a real good deal for Mark Fortner. I mean, I'm a horse trader, you know. If you trade and you lose every time, you're gonna be out of business pretty quick. Your pocketbook will go empty.
so once the board voted on the swap, I mean, as long as it met the parameters of the swap, it's a done deal. And that's what I'm saying, that the process is now we deliver, you know, what expectations we have, which we have verbally, but now we're putting in a document. Once that document is signed off on, it'll be, the closing will happen. So the swap has been done, that was all done, and it had to have a public hearing, which we had to be published and all that stuff, so all that was completed. So now, the only thing that would stop it would be if he didn't meet the criteria we've set forth, which is, you know, taking everything down with the phase 1, environmental, you know, making sure there's nothing in the ground, that sort of thing. So,
In the meeting that I'm talking about, we need to discuss, is that the right place for the school? And we look at the, you know what I'm saying, as far as the,
right, now y'all had, the previous board
we talked about it.
had
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 meetings
Yeah.
with the school board, and that question was asked. I know we've got new members, but the consensus was at those meetings was they wanted it, they thought it was a good place for it. Looking at it from security issues and the whole 9 yards, you know, before they wanted to put it in the softball field at the high school, I think is where we were going to put it, which that would have a whole different set of issues. The 45 acres, it was going to take about $5 million worth of excavation to get it to where it needed to be. The property, there was another piece of property, another parcel of property they were looking at, which was also a high price tag, you know, per acre. So, and it wasn't really conducive to what they were after either. I mean, that was needed. It's really hard to find 17 acres of flat property without having to do a lot of excavation work that has water, sewer, gas, fiber optic on site. So that was a lot of that.
And highway access, I guess,
And
was
highway
another issue.
access and that sort of thing. So
Let me look at it another way. The Beazle plant and the 18 acres of land out there, reckon what the estimated value of it would be.
According to our tax records, it's about 1.8 million.
So we're going to give 1.8 million for 18 acres of land, in other words.
Flat acres, yeah.
That's about all I've got to say about that, you know.
All right, we're gonna move on. Kevin, got anything else?
I think that's it. Well, I was gonna look at the, we'd mentioned a budget retreat on the 17th to see if that would work, just a couple hours before the regular meeting. And this would just be the first budget retreat. This is just a, you know, what y'all want to have in the budget, kind of starting process. So,
And that's on the 17th?
if, that's what I'm proposing.
That's what we're looking at.
That's what I'm proposing, but if
Okay.
y'all have a different day, that's fine too.
And we'll meet at, what,
I
a
was
couple
thinking,
hours before,
yeah, I was thinking like 3:30,
3:30?
yeah.
Is everyone good with that? That's on the next, that's on
Mhm.
the third Tuesday at 3:30, and then we'll do a regular session at 5:30.
Yeah.
Any conflict there with anybody?
Now, Mr. Chairman, make sure we get our reminders.
You remind us? Thank you. So we'll just start the budget, just kind of looking at the groundworks, laying the foundation of our next budget. Righty. Is that it, Ted?
That's all I
Let's
have.
move on to commissioners' reports. Roger, we'll start with you.
I really don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. I feel that an animal complaint about a dog, and kind of pass that on to Mr. King. I think he got in touch with the people, right, pass that down, and I think it was handled. I think
Yeah.
the individual called me back and thanked me and that it was handled correctly. That's about the only thing I've done through the holidays, I guess, Mr. Chairman.
Bill?
I don't really have anything to report on, other than there's been an issue with, through EMS, hospitals and staffing problems, where that we've been on, all the hospitals been on diversion at some point, especially this last week. There really was nowhere to take anyone who's sick. So when you have them on your truck for a couple of hours before you can take them into a room to be examined, it's a problem. And, I don't know the answers to that. This is not just at Swain County Hospital, it's all of the hospitals in western North Carolina. And
I've had several people that's been in and out of the hospital here in the last couple of months that could not find a bed, that stayed in ERs for days.
well, that's the problem. They need a higher level of care than what they can get here or there, the next hospital up the road. So it becomes a problem, and I don't know the answer to that. I would say to the general public, if you're sick, and you have a means to get to the hospital, you stand just as good a chance getting in as you do as if you're in the back of an ambulance. They're going to wait on you first come, first serve anyway. And without you have, a full medical emergency, you would need to dial 911 and you would get precedence there if you were in that bad of shape. But it's just a tough time for everybody. And I feel for the workers. I mean, I've had COVID myself a couple of times. It's no fun. I had the flu once, but yet I feel like in my heart people need help. What do? We got to care for one another. So it's a calling that you have to answer, and either you do or you don't answer it. But we all know when we don't feel well, then, you know, we want to be somewhere we won't feel better. Now, that's what I want. I want everybody healed, you know. I wish I could wave a magic wand and make COVID and the flu and all of this stuff disappear. And I know my legislators do, but what do you do when there's no one to care for people? And so it is an issue. We'll get through it the best way we can, and the main thing is don't panic. You know, I'm not panicking, but it is an issue.
It definitely is an issue, and especially in our small county. You know, at one time we had a pretty full functional hospital. We don't actually have that at night. We're more of a triage. And then we have some patient care, but not a lot. So it's been that way for a while, and I don't know the answer as well.
And a lot of it is they have beds, they have equipment, they have that, they have nobody to care for the people.
They don't have,
They don't have nurses and
the employees
like they should have.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask Phil a question about, so how does that certainly has to affect our capacity then if we only have a couple of trucks or a couple of people on duty, and now the ambulance has somebody
It
in it?
does, because, you know,
Then how do you respond to another call?
I can't release my patient to just anyone, you know.
Right.
They have to have the authority to do that. So it becomes a waiting game, and we have to wait too. And, you know, it's just, we're working on trying to iron that out. I talked to county manager about that, and letting the hospital administrators know, you know, that, but they're doing all they can do too. I mean, they can't make people go to work. A lot of it has changed since COVID hit, you know, and I'm like y'all, and a lot of those workers too. They're just waiting on the next thing that's coming out, you know. Hope it's not worse. But anyway,
So if you have any ideas that we might
it's
be.
against the law for us to
Call
just
Mike.
dump them out up there, you know, and then go back to work and get somebody else.
Mike, come up, and talk to us a little bit about that if you want to. I'm fine with that.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to be very quick and sort of rushing. I've got another appointment at 12 o'clock over in Waynesville. So may I approach and hand these out?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
First off, let me start out by saying thank you for the report on the rec center and the event park. I don't know if the state DOT's got the new signs up, but I requested new signs back in December. There was some issue about people trying to get to the light show and going to the Inspirations Park, had them confused. So anyhow, the next thing is I'll mention too, the Tier 1 to Tier 2 change is going to be a problem in the sense that it's going to eliminate us in Swain County the opportunity to get certain grants and applications for certain grants. I've already spoken to Senator Corbin, Mark Pless, and Representative Gillespie. I've talked to the Department of Commerce about this. There is no appeal process at this time. My mentioning it to Corbin and the other representatives is we're going to take a look at this in this coming year at the General Assembly because we are unique in Swain County because of the land that we don't have, that we have, that we don't have, that don't generate anything. So anyhow, point being with that is we'll see what we can do with that. No guarantees, but I'm going to bring it to their attention. Another thing is, you mentioned the hospital just a minute ago. I haven't talked to the administrator. I didn't know this was an issue, but now that I know it's an issue, I've already contacted my LA in Raleigh on text to get the CEO or who the administrator is and set up a meeting so I can sit down and talk to them. So I'll act on y'all's behalf if you'd like for me to do that to find out what the problem is. This is not just a problem in Swain. It's also a problem in Jackson County. I had a constituent issue last week that I handled with that because of problems. And here's the deal. Swain, Jackson, and Haywood County hospitals are all part of the Duke Life Point system. That's the for-profit hospital organization out of Tennessee. So because of it being what it is, it sort of falls in the same category as the problems we've got with HCA over in Asheville. And we're having some, well, there's some litigation going, and I can't go into all that, but I'm well aware of the problem. So anyhow, off the top of my head, this packet I have given you real briefly was a packet intended for the former sitting commissioners based on a request for a meeting that never materialized. That being said, in here is a copy of their resolution from the town and the former commissioners. Going through this resolution, gentlemen, creates a real problem for me to be able to do anything for Swain County. It more or less says, if we want your help, we'll ask you. And that leads me into my next comment. If you've got a request for state budget or things that's over and above what's your budget, please do not do what the last sitting commissioner's done, which was nothing. No one asked for the money for the rec center. No one asked for the money for the event center. No one asked for the refurbishment of Governor's Island Park Beach. They didn't ask for any of that. Yes, I took the lead on that because I saw the need. I am community orientated with all three of my counties, Swain, Jackson, and now Transylvania County. That being said, I just awarded $350 million to the nonprofits in Swain County that take a tax burden off the citizens of Swain County because nonprofits are suffering across the state. And this went to the volunteer fire departments, the rescue squad, the theater on Main Street, the pregnancy center, et cetera. The point with that again is I'm community orientated and minded and trying to take and pick up and fill the gap where the local taxes that aren't there to be able to serve the citizens of our community. And I know how tough it is because I live here too. The thing about this resolution is I'll reiterate, and I'm going to bring it to the town board too. You're making it difficult for me to do anything for Swain County if you ask me for it. Because you're telling me here in writing, well, won't you help only when we ask for it, if we ask for it. Needless to say, there's a lot of explanation of the questions, and these were not reasons, these were excuses given, these 5 reasons in here for not participating. Had we had, and I think Fire Chief Charles Brasson has brought it to the public's attention in a letter to the editor in a special session in the paper back in October to put the county commissioners, y'all on notice, which back then is a different commission, but I think you'll get the grasp of it, that we need to sit down and talk about public safety in Swain County. Because number one, you've already identified we got a problem with EMS. We're not having good cooperation with the hospital. I'll address that with them. But we also need to look at sustainable and futuristic needs in our county. Somebody said recently in one of the counties, well, what about swiftwater rescue training? Well, folks, I'm here to tell you, I'm the guy that wrote the grant that got that for the first swiftwater rescue training class in the state of North Carolina from Central Piedmont and Charlotte that came up here to Nantahala Outdoor Center. I'm real familiar with that. Understand, I've got a little experience in the emergency services field, about 31 years. Know it inside and out. I'm in a unique position being in the state house now and being on some of the appropriations committees that I'm hoping to be on, and probably a chair to one that I just asked for recently. In fact, I talked to the rules chair yesterday about that. My third term in the House is advantageous because it gives me the latitude of having a little more standing and stature in the State House. And just so you know, the budget starts in the State House on the House side this time. Do you know what that means? That means that requests from the House of Representatives legislators take priority over what happens on the Senate side. It started in the Senate the last time, and I won't say we got scraps. we work together well, and we do work together well. We have a great senator, Senator Corbin, that works with me. We have a great Western delegation that works well together. The four of us have been able to bring a voice to Western North Carolina that's never been heard or had before. And that's how we have been able to accomplish of getting over $200 million coming into Western North Carolina, Haywood County from the floods, et cetera. But the bottom line is, I need to know no later than January 31, 2023, your budget request from the state so that I can put it in the budget. We start working on it now. You're going to start working on it in a couple of weeks. I'm already working on it now. I've already got budget requests from Transylvania County, Jackson County, and I'm sitting on hold for y'all because I hadn't heard anything yet. And if you don't ask, you don't get. And it's sort of like this. It's better to ask, Mr. Chairman, and be told no than me tell you, well, I wish you had asked. Because that's the way it works down in Raleigh. If you don't ask. Now, yeah, I asked for a couple of $100 million, but I didn't get a couple of $100 million, but I did get something because I did ask. So I appreciate your time today. I don't mean to be in a rush. I know it's a work session. I always tell everybody, feel free to give me a call. My phone number, 828-736-6222, is constituent services constantly. Anyone can call me. You don't have to be an elected official to talk to me. That's what House of Representatives is. I'm a representative of the people. Call, talk to me. You got a question or whatever. And like I said, I handle good 25% of my constituent issues while I'm here at home. I don't have to be in Raleigh. Okay? Thank you all. Thank you, public, for being here today. I can do anything for you. Let me know. I don't mean to rush, but I do have a 12 o'clock in Waynesville. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I want to move on to, David, you have any commissioner report?
Only other thing I've got our manager's contract here. Did you get one?
I did not.
Philip knows the manager's contract. I'd like to get one for Kenneth. I'd like for all of us to have a contract like that would be good, but I'd like for all of us to have it so we can see. And if the public wants to see, I've got a copy of it.
It's on the website too.
And I would like to maybe find out how many committees each one of us sit on for the different committees, just for the public to know where we stand on certain things, if there's not going to be some sort of conflict there, if we're on a committee or that, you know. And another thing, I'd like to know how much land Swain County does own, how much we've got that's ours, you know, foreclosure or whatever. I would like to know that, see where we stand there. And that's about the only other things I've got.
Thank you. Since Representative Mike Clamp came, and he wants to know what we want. I think it'd be a good time for us maybe to brainstorm a little bit. And Kevin, I know you've probably got some things that we might need and want, and we'll,
It's, I mean, it's a different world in Raleigh than it was 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
4 years ago, there was no money to be had.
exactly.
Now they're talking, it's rolling in it.
Yeah.
And these direct grants were, and I call them, pork, I guess is what you'd say,
Pork.
back in the old days.
It is pork.
It is pork.
It's not sugarcoat it. It's
And
pork.
so it's never
He
been-
found pork to bring to the county,
Yeah,
and he's
so,
proud of it.
so we've never issued any budget requests to the state because they're always been broke.
Yeah.
There's been no money, so, and the prior board didn't, I think we only got behind the school, that's all we asked for. We did ask for something, we asked for them to work with getting the middle school project. That was the big ask. And so, whatever, I mean, there's no really projects, I mean, per se. Well, you know, we've got, the biggest one is, of course, the school. building that's been proposed. But, I mean, as long as he's helping support the fire departments, which is also funded by the county, and all the other things, you know, at the time, I think we were behind the town on getting water and sewer, because we can't do any projects unless we have water and sewer. And so that was the big thing. We asked him for that last year. So nothing specifically for the county. And at the time, you know, all this discretionary money, which it's gonna run out in 2024, you know, as far as the ARPA, that's where this direct funding came from. You know, I don't know, whatever y'all want to ask me for. I mean, it kind of spurheads if you want to think about it between now and the 17th, and we can write
That's
them a
what I
letter.
was gonna say, maybe we could bring this back up in regular session.
Yeah, so if you have a project that y'all want to see happen independently, we'll just throw it in there and see what he can get. But at this point, I mean, you can't use it for operational expenses. You can't use it, you know, for, you know, because the price of vehicles have gone up. I mean, I guess we could ask for, you know, new vehicles and see what he said to that. Say, oh, well, we ain't got our vehicles yet. Why don't y'all pay for them? You know, we could do that if y'all wanted to. Whatever y'all want to do.
I think we need to
Let's find
brainstorm, maybe come up with some projects maybe you'd like to see, or something that's where we're missing, maybe something with the event center, maybe something with the rec department that we might be able to have him to look at and make him a list and send it to him.
I mean, the man's offering, let's take it up on his offer.
Might as well. Yeah.
I feel the same way. He's asking for it, so, yeah.
The other thing, I think he referenced, it wasn't a resolution, it's more of a letter, I believe.
It was a letter.
And, so when the meeting came about in last June, you know, I think we discussed it, and we didn't want to attend for the simple fact that it needed to be a grassroots effort from the volunteers, because it was almost insinuating that there needed to be one agency and one place, and then have all substations. So, but you've got Larka Volunteer Fire Department, you've got West Swain Volunteer Fire Department, you've got Bryson City Volunteer Fire Department, you've got Qualla. All of them service Swain County. And so it needed to be a grassroots effort from them coming up, not it coming down, you know, saying, oh, you need to all be combined, because that's basically what got out of it. And I think that's where the town, you know, reached out to the chair, and that letter was drafted between the county and the town, basically. Basically insinuating that, you know, at this point it needs to be community-led and not forced-led. Because it almost seemed like they were asking to put in a brand new building, and this building was gonna be for everybody. But then you've got these organizations out there that has a lot of volunteers, and right now they're volunteer organizations. Until we had paid staff, the county really can't say much about it, because we're not in charge of those people. All we do is help them. We support them. And it wouldn't be fair for us to come and say, oh yeah, we believe you should all be in one. And I think that was the consensus of the board at the time, and that's where that letter came from. And that was the reason behind it. It wasn't that we were necessarily against it. It was, if the four got together, the four nonprofit, you know, public safety folks, rescue squad included, if all of them got together and say, okay, we're ready to combine all together, well, then that'd be a different story. Then we'd all be, you know, together. But we just, you know, at the time, I think the board just didn't want to go against or make it look like we were supporting one idea or another. And that's just to kind of.
Mr. Chairman, I hate that Mr. Clampett had to leave, because I'd rather say it where he could hear me and maybe it'll get back to him. I think he misrepresented what the letter said. I think anybody that could read this letter would see that is not, the way he represented it is not the way it's even worded and interpreted. The last line of this letter says, we appreciate your willingness to get involved with this local issue, and possibly in the future we'll need your assistance with securing buildings and equipment for fire and rescue organizations to meet the needs of our community. There's no way that I think that the way he represented it to us or to you is the way the letter was ever written or intended to read. So I hate that he took it that way. So, well, I would suggest right away, we got an issue with traffic. Well, you had brought up a third bridge. I'd say, Mr. Clampett, we need a third bridge in Bryson City across the Tuckasegee River.
Yeah, Philip said that earlier.
That would solve the problem.
That'd solve the problem, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
All right?
I agree.
We need a third bridge, Mr. Clampett. Now, where we put it could be interesting. You could put it across and go toward Deep Creek. People could go up that way, would not have to go in town, or you could go on down to like over 288. People going across that way. Even
I think it'd be great.
we could have a third bridge and relieve some of the traffic issues in Bryson City, Swain County.
Either that or go up the river road with another road to come out of Governor Island, save from building the bridge.
Improve that road to where it's passable.
You could build that road up, get it higher, elevated.
And then I don't know how that runs into train right-of-ways or any of that type of thing, and that's probably what it does. But yeah, we can sure give Mr. Clampett a bunch of stuff for us to start working on.
Yep, I
He
agree.
give us the invitation, let's have him a bunch of.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And the letter that's here, I talked to the town during all this as well. They had some concerns that was in that letter. I think one of the things that was for me that it was almost like a surprise meeting because I didn't know anything about it. I think nobody really knew anything about it before it happened, and that's why everybody kind of rejected it and didn't go because, like I said, it's volunteers, and you can't make volunteers do what you want. It's just you'll lose all your volunteers.
Right.
So I don't say his plan was bad. I just say it needed more strategy to it to make it work. So, but I agree. Let's send him some stuff. So, all right, we're gonna move on. Informal discussion. I think we probably informalized a lot of discussion here. You got anything? Okay, this is and this is the public comment. This is Robert Womble. Come on up, Mr. Robert. Just state your name and then you have 3 minutes to.
All right, I'm Robert Womble. I spoke here almost 3 years ago regarding the library. That was right before the world ended. That was the last meeting before everything shut down for COVID. I was a junior in high school then. I'm a junior in college now. I just want to say thank you for getting progress moving forward with the library and the funding and the expansion and everything, and that you're building some things that I really wish were there when I was in high school, like the study rooms. That's one of the biggest things that we wish we had, along with better internet connectivity there. I want to say thank you, that there is support and that this is a need that we have in the county, and that what you're doing is not going unnoticed. And even though it took a hot second to get done, we appreciate what you guys are doing. So, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
I did go, I'll finish the, since I skipped my intermission report, I did go by the library. Mr. Duffield, he's here today, kind of walked me through the library, and the library is a very functional facility. I've learned some things about it, so I suggest you guys, if you get time to go by, just go, have him do a little walkthrough, kind of show you what's the ins and outs. It's pretty cool stuff. So we appreciate what you guys are doing. Appreciate Mr. Womble coming and telling us that. I also went in with the Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol, probations, Town of Bryson City, Graham County Sheriff's Department. And on New Year's Eve, I went and kind of hung out with them while they done the DUI checkpoint. If you've not done that, that's very interesting as well. Lots of facilities that come there and showed up to support one another. I think the rescue might have been there, and the fire department was there as well. So I commend those guys for doing their job. We broke down about 9. They went and set up some more checkpoints, and I think they did very well. So we appreciate all you guys do, Jason.
Amen.
Anybody wants to go do that, just get up and Jason, he'll get you a yellow vest and you'll get to go up there and stand. So, I think that's all the public comments. So I think we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I need a second.
I see.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Pass unanimously. Thank you, guys. Also, got birthday cards to sign.